Yeah, the 5 love languages. Like words of affirmation when you're always saying like absolutely, or you're encouraging someone to, keep being awesome or whatever. They're gonna lean into that. And
How long did it take you to find your wife's love language?
She doesn't have one.
What?
Yeah.
She a robot?
All 5. She has all 5 equally, and yeah,
Oh, really?
she juggles them, so it's always hard to keep up, right? Yeah.
Oh goodness, I can't tell if that's really like a highly evolved woman,
Yeah.
or maybe something else. No, your
got
wife.
a lot of
Your wife
experience.
is lovely.
Thank you.
Didn't I meet her that one time when we were going to the watch party and she was at the top of the stairs? And I
Yeah.
was trying to be really quiet.
Yeah, we busted in my house at like 2 in the morning.
We broke into your house.
Yeah. And you were standing at the front door.
And she was looking down at me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But she was really nice.
I was in the living room trying to find the channel, and you're standing there taking your shoes off, and she's like confronting you.
I was taking my shoes off, being super quiet, and I still got busted.
Yeah, you did.
But
We had a couple other buddies with you, and they're just like, they were ignoring the whole situation, I think.
right, that was smart of them.
Yeah.
But so welcome back.
Thank you.
This is your 3rd time on the Frankie Say podcast. I'm sorry for the squeaky chair. That's my fault. That's actually Klitz's fault. Klitz made it squeaky.
He's forgiven.
He's
You're
forgiven.
Josh.
And the producers have told us that we won't hear it through the mic, so that's nice.
I'll do my best to not make it squeak. How about that?
What advice did your wife give you?
She said, don't swivel, and so I don't have a swivel chair.
Okay.
It was a match. We're good.
So, Jason McCoy, there is a lot of stuff going on. The world, I don't want to say that the world is on fire, but that's what some people say. My mother, she always thinks we're living in end times. And she's very Catholic. Mm-hmm. She's real quick to grab the rosary when she feels like that. And so she's been grabbing the rosary for like 25 years because she always thinks we're living in end times. And it's not like the Chinese fortune cookie when you get the fortune that says, may you live in interesting times. But these are interesting times.
They are very interesting.
A couple of topics that I want to kind of hit with you. I really want to thank you for coming on. You're the perfect person for this time to have on. You are, because your opinions, you base your opinions on facts, and if you don't know the answer, you say, I don't know. And then sometimes after our other pods, you'll call me, text me in a panic, be like, oh my gosh, I missed that factoid by like 0.2. I'm like, Jason, no, you were right. You were just like technically off.
It bothers me. Yes, it definitely bothers me if I'm kind of going outside of my my boundaries and I say something and I'm like questioning everything after that. Like, oh, was that a good source that I just brought that from, or was it something I read and I didn't follow up on? So yeah.
You're pretty consistent. You're kind of knowledgeable. That's why you're here. You're a good dude.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you about a few things. We're going to cover general, I kind of want to get your take on the general feelings of the facts and feelings of the people in America regarding immigration. I kind of want to touch on the No Kings protests.
Sure.
I'd like to ask you your opinion about why people are flying Mexican flags when I understand why they're doing it, but I want to talk to you about that. I want to touch on the 250th birthday of America.
Love it.
And in there, we'll probably talk about some of your ongoings with some of the things, the organizations that you're involved in here in Quincy. And we've done that before, though, too.
Wonderful. Yes.
We've done that before.
Absolutely.
So this is good timing, right?
Yes, it is, sir.
This is before Independence Day.
Yes.
We're right in the sweet spot right now.
We are.
We're also going to talk about the Israeli-Palestine issue. Mm-hmm. I stopped taking a side on that, just kind of because I don't know.
Right.
Once I think I know and I've got it pretty good, then someone hits me with this other perspective. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I used to feel like I had to take a side.
Right.
The Israeli-Iran conflict, war
that just begun.
That just began. So let's start with the immigration thing.
Let's get into it.
What's going on?
Well, we're a country of immigrants. Let's just start there. Like, obviously, we've been called a melting pot of cultures, and that's kind of the beauty of our nation. You don't find that anywhere else in the world. If you go to Italy, they want their specific type of foods, they want their specific type of musics, and even in different regions, they're very, very particular, and they'll get mad at you if you are wrong. But in America, we celebrate those differences, which I've traveled the world all over the place, and that's something that I enjoy. Even so much, though, that like my wife is Dominican, so I try all her Dominican foods and musics and cultural stuff, and I love it. She's native speaking Spanish, so anytime we travel to like Italy or Spain, or we go back to Dominican Republic, or we go down to Mexico, she's our number one communicator of the group usually, because she's absolutely fluent still, and it's nice so we don't feel like such a tourist, But I met her in the Air Force, and working in the Air Force, working and playing in sports, you have to have that kind of mindset, especially here in America, because you're playing with people from all across the country, all across the world when you're in the military. So you have to work with these people. You have to get along with them, and then be sensitive to their cultural aspects. You don't have to adopt it necessarily, but you have to understand it. As far as the illegal immigration thing goes, that's currently on fire across certain areas in the country. Just follow the law. That's a basic. Every nation has immigration law, and I think what the majority of the people are saying, like, you broke the law when you came here. Either get it right, like go through a naturalization process and become a citizen, or go back home. Or, because it became a bigger problem when the social welfare started. Our tax dollars were redistributed to these sections of people that, they may or may not be paying taxes depending on what they're doing. But ultimately, from my perspective, illegal immigration is modern day slavery. Because you have these big corporations employing low wage earners. These people are here, the hard-working ones are here to just make an honest living and send it back home to their children and wife or something. And they can't have a bank account. They can't have, all the opportunities that we would have as a citizen or a naturalized citizen. And they're susceptible to being robbed or being victimized because they can't have a bank account. They've got way too much stuff on them. And they're not going to call the police for help because they probably get deported. So there's a lot of issues that swirl around the illegal immigration thing. And it's not, the right or evil because they, are whatever, hate immigrants. That's just not the truth. The truth is there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it.
You can go in through the front door, which takes a really long time, or you can go through the back door, which is dangerous.
And we can argue about the front door. Should it be more streamlined? Yeah, of course there's bureaucracy involved and it's tough.
Do you believe that there's some type of major mental block that Americans and American politicians have that's keeping them and preventing them from fixing the immigration law and the policy and the way things are? You don't think there is?
No, I think it's on purpose. I think the corporate entities that are lobbying our congressmen, our legislators in D.C., want illegal immigration. They want the cheap labor. That's how they get their margins. It's as simple as that. And the left, or those that are saying, we need to keep these people here, they're shilling for the corporate lobbyists in D.C. That's what they do, and they don't even know it.
But they don't know it.
They have no idea.
That's not what I don't think that's to your point.
They're seeing compassion. Oh, leave them alone. They're people too.
It's all compassion.
But they're actually shilling for the lobbyists in D.C. that are saying, we want them to work for us because we can get them for a tenth of the cost as what we would do for labor of an American or whatever they're paying them.
What do you say to people that will say things like, well, this is not what Jesus would do? This idea, like, why are you just leave these people alone? They're just trying to make a living. They're just trying to help their families. This is not the Christian thing. Oh, so and so, you say you're a Christian. You say you read the Bible. How can you be such a hypocrite by turning your backs on these people, these souls? Don't you dare call them illegals or call them aliens. What is your feeling?
As Christians, we are taught what to do as individuals, not as government. Government is very different from our individual behavior. We can police ourselves and find our own religious traditions and things like that, and we live by those based on whatever Jesus said or whatever Muhammad said or whatever your religious affiliation is. That's how you're supposed to conduct yourself in everyday life. Government is a wholly different thing. If you think it's in your heart to take care of illegal immigrants, or maybe they are refugees or something, then get a part of a non-for-profit or something that's working on that. Maybe go be a part of the legislation piece that is trying to streamline an immigration entry, the front door, and work on making it easier, making it cheaper, making it more direct so that they can become naturalized citizens. Other than that, open your door. Let them in. Like your door, not our door. Because we don't all believe the same thing. I can accept your beliefs and be respectful to you. But your beliefs, once they start infringing on my rights or picking my pocket or breaking my leg, that's now a crime. So it's one of those things like, when it comes to government, you just got to be careful that it doesn't impact outside your own community. That if you want to do something, or your faith thinks, teaches you should be doing something, you should do it. You shouldn't force anyone else to do it on your behalf.
I've read recently that the Mexican government has started to really crack down on on their southern border.
Yeah.
Their southern border, they've got a lot of Central American countries that are trying to come into Mexico.
Absolutely.
And the Mexican government is shutting that down. Now they've got, historically, especially over the past 3 or 4 years, there have been a lot of people coming up through that 62 to 64 mile area, kind of from the Panama Canal up through some of those Central American countries. I'm trying to think of the name of that little area.
It's all jungle. The rainforest, yeah.
It's the rainforest.
And they all die, huge amounts. It's super dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of them die. A lot of them don't make it out. It's something like that. So there's that area down there where people are actually trying to make it through there.
Yeah.
Now there's ways around it. There's ways, especially in the past 3 or 4 years. But this is what I've read recently, is that during the previous administration, the previous American administration, the Mexican government was allowing these people to come through and traverse and sometimes get escorted to avoid cartels and gangs and drug lords.
They're definitely being bussed up.
They're being bussed up all the way up there and then walk right through the southern border of America, telling ICE and border security to stand down, essentially.
Yeah.
Or, you don't necessarily have to hold the barbed wire up to allow women and children through, but if you see it, don't do anything about it. But now the fact that the new administration is here for the Americans, the Mexican government now is telling them. So the Mexican government changes their mind. But I did hear the Mexican president recently say something like, siding with the illegal aliens, telling our president that, she's being relatively polite about it, but she's siding with the immigrants.
Right.
So
probably the cartels, you mean?
Probably.
She doesn't care about the immigrants. It's the cartels that really run that show.
So is it them kind of speaking, using her as a mouthpiece?
Well, first of all, it's human smuggling. So it's sex trafficking as human smuggling is a huge market there. But the drugs is a big part too. And, obviously the fentanyl thing we hear a lot about, but there's a lot of different types of drugs that are coming up through those borders. And that's their cash crop. Those cartels will protect that with everything they have, whether it's the human smuggling or the drugs. So, Yeah, those politicians really, if they go against what the cartels' wishes are, they're really putting themselves in a lot of danger.
I used to hear that Barack Obama was the deporter in chief. That was, I don't know who coined the phrase, but I was under the impression I would hear that he deported
millions and millions. Yeah.
Well, at least 3 million.
Yeah, I heard upwards, like 5 or
upwards
6.
to 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So George W. deported around 10 million. Okay, and Bill Clinton deported 12 million.
Yeah, I saw that.
So when using the deporter in chief as a label for Barack I don't understand. This had to have been a Republican. This had to have maybe it was a Democrat that coined the phrase, but it's like they skipped over Bush's and Clinton's efforts. And Obama did not use due process 80% of the time. And Bush didn't use due process 80% of the time. And Clinton, when Clinton deported 12 million people, that 12 million number, I'm pretty firm on that number.
Yeah.
I think everybody can kind of agree it's around 12 million. Due process?
That's the population of all Illinois, by the way.
12 mil?
Yeah.
Well, Clinton, I mean, I'm starting to like Clinton. You know, it's so interesting how, I'm serious, it's so weird how even the left wants George W. back. You know, because they look at him as
unless he came back, then they hate him. It doesn't matter who the person is; they just hate the policies.
Does it surprise you though about how, looking back at U.S. presidents, their approval ratings go higher? They go up.
A lot of people don't know that Reagan was like hated by everybody, and now he's like chiefed as one of the best ever. So it definitely is a time lapse that comes and goes, and then they see, oh, he wasn't so bad, right? Yeah, you're right.
Well, Reagan did make a pretty big mistake.
He made a lot of.
Well,
they all did. You know, they all do.
Well, listen, you know where I stand.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to give like an unbiased account.
Sure.
Reagan, before he left office, he allowed a massive amnesty bill that, in my opinion, kind of permanently turned California blue. Because I think California went red when Reagan was running.
He was
I
governor,
think
right?
Yeah, Reagan was governor of
then
California.
Right before he ran.
Yeah. And then he was winning in like landslides. As a matter of fact, I think there's only a couple of states that he didn't win one particular time.
Right.
One of them is D.C., and that's not a state, of course, it's a district, but Minnesota. He didn't win Minnesota.
Interesting.
Minnesota is strangely blue.
It's weird.
What the heck is wrong with Minnesota? I mean, for all the blue people who are listening, I mean, that's a total terrible thing for me to say. I'm so sorry. But no, seriously, Minnesota has some type of weird stranglehold on the people. And also in the news, there's some pretty nasty stuff going on with the killings or the assassinations, I guess you could say, the murder of Minnesota lawmakers.
That's right.
Which is absolutely horrible.
That just happened a couple days ago, too.
Right. Terrible. We do not want to see this.
Right.
This is not what we want to do in America. We don't want to see this fighting. We don't want ICE to have to come in masks and start rounding up these people. We don't want to see it, but I feel like there's something very beautiful from the left's perspective of allowing so many people to come through the border, and then there's an election. And the guy who wins during his campaign is saying, just so you know, if you elect me, all the people that just came through, I'm going to grab them and kick them out of here. And Americans are like, well, I have to think about this. We have to see who's going to win this election. And that guy wins the election.
I just read maybe 2 days ago or something that they're estimating over 1 million have self-deported.
I heard that too.
They've went back home to their families and stuff. So, I mean, it's not nothing. You're not even 6 months in and you already got 1 million just self-deporting. That's like zero law enforcement engaged. People that are just doing the right thing because they know it's time to move on. So
yeah, so I heard that out of that 1 million, there's a good amount of people that just got here, and they haven't really haven't got their footing yet, and they really don't want to get ripped out, and they really don't want to separate their families, and they don't want to even have that experience. I do think that Trump's behavior in taking ICE, and by the way, this is like the making of sausage. It's a terrible situation. You come in illegally, the previous president says, come on in, and all of his handlers say, come on in. He opens the border, and then there's an election, and the American people make a decision. And then the new guy comes in and says, guess what? You're out of here. And you know what I'm gonna do too? I'm gonna do it in such a messy, like kind of like weirdly targeted, hardcore masks, ICE coming in. It is insane. I mean, but that is literally causing people to self-deport.
Yep.
So you have to think, the whole. I would like to say that Trump speaks softly and carries a big stick, but that's not true.
No,
that's
we all
not
know
true.
that. Yeah.
He's not speaking softly and carrying a big stick. He is speaking loudly and almost in a belligerent manner sometimes, and carrying two big sticks.
Yeah.
And chopping off everybody's heads, which goes back to King. Is he a king?
No, absolutely not. And I don't think he. Okay. So, the interesting thing about the No Kings rallies, and I think this is the segue to that. Yes, that's what America was founded on, right? King George was king of the colonies, and then they said, no, we're not going to have a king. Interestingly enough, I was doing some research on that, and there's quite a bit of literature actually from our founding fathers that talked about no kings. And a lot of them would follow it up with no kings but Christ, or no kings but Jesus. And even, so Common Sense was one of the most popular pamphlets from back in the day, 1775, and that was written by Thomas Paine, who, when the American Revolution was going through, when they were doing all that work for the 10 years that they were working on that, he was very faith-based. He was very Christian. Benjamin Rush and him.
Thomas Paine was?
Thomas Paine was. Now, when he went to France and helped them with the French Revolution, he went different. And that's what a lot of the left and the atheists would quote. He's not Christian. He was an atheist. That was later in life when he was in the French Revolution. And that was a whole different revolution than the American Revolution. Mm-hmm. But in the American Revolution, when he wrote Common Sense, he was very clear that this was a no kings movement, and it was about God. God was law, not king, not the king. The law was king, which the law came from God. And so he was very clear in his writings. Benjamin Rush was one of his mentors and helped him write a lot of those pamphlets that he wrote. And he was a preacher. He was a minister. And so that's where a lot of that climate came from, where it was like, it was a biblical movement in its foundation. That's why we wanted to shrug off the King of England. So it's very interesting that, they're saying no kings. Obviously, we don't have a king. Obviously, none of us want Trump to be king. I don't know what the percentage is, but I'd say a large percentage is Catholic or evangelical Christians that voted for Trump. And
what percentage of MAGA wants Trump to be king?
Gosh, that's an impossible number to say, but I guarantee you,
super far
first of all, there's crazy people in every group you go to. So I would say probably not even 5% would say, yeah, I want him king. Now, there are people out trolling the left that will say that and then snicker when they post, but they don't really mean it. On a one-on-one conversation, if I'm talking to you, I'd say I'd post something like that just to make someone angry, but I obviously don't want him to be king.
Right.
So you have a lot of that. That's why.
Do you want him to have a third term?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, because that's unconstitutional.
Right.
Okay.
But I think J.D. Vance is doing a great job, and he has a very clear path for the same MAGA issues.
The no kings is so interesting. It's such a weird argument, because obviously this is being talked about after a so-called free and fair election. I say so-called because I really don't cherry pick. Like, I do not know what is going on. I don't know if the Dominion machines are working or not.
There's some information coming out about that now too.
Trump won the popular vote.
He did.
I was very surprised to see that.
I didn't think he would, but
I didn't think he would. I didn't think a Republican was ever going to win the popular vote again in my lifetime. And obviously, I like to say this a lot about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. One of the things that I liked that she said, lots of things I didn't, but one thing I liked was her talking about the pendulum. Mm-hmm. And she would talk about how Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey. I think somebody else convinced the government, the feds, to use the American eagle. Mm-hmm. But RBG would talk about the pendulum. She's like, if you don't like the way politics are in America, just wait. The pendulum will swing from one side to the other. Mm-hmm. And the pendulum swung from open borders to ice hockey masks.
Lock them up.
So it's just such an interesting difference. When we talk about no kings, Trump won in the election. He did something enough to bring back the Republicans to the House, the Republicans to the Senate. The R's have all three branches.
Correct. And I think they should have had more, actually. They lost a lot of those Senate seats that he won in those states, and it didn't make any sense.
Well, this idea of the no kings thing, it doesn't make any sense to me. I understand why they're saying it, because they are saying that you can't come into California. The governor, Gavin Newsom, has said, I don't want you here. The feds are like, yeah, we don't care. We're going to come in here and do this anyway, because they all broke the law. They broke federal law.
That's federal law.
So
it's very different.
We are able to go in there. And they'll say, well, that's illegal because they need due process. And the Fifth Amendment clearly says persons. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say citizens. It says persons. I really wish they would have said citizens, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They wrote persons, and the founders weren't stupid. Mm-hmm. So the founders are brilliant. I
understand why they did it, but because of the slave issue at the time. They had to do that because slaves weren't considered citizens. They were considered property. So, if they said it was a person, if that's split really hard, and the 3/5 clause was the reason that happened. But the South wanted them to be recognized as persons because they would get more representation in Congress if they were represented as persons on the census. But they were wanting them to be as property because they didn't want them to have the rights. And that's what the 3/5 clause was all about. It was like, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. They're either property or people. And so they had to do the 3/5 clause because the North knew that they would never abolish slavery if they allowed them to be citizens.
So when I'm watching these protests, some of them are protests, some of them are riots. I think when I'm seeing videos of people running into Apple stores, smashing display tables, stealing phones, TVs or whatever. I saw a video that was happening in the Apple store, and I'm trying to figure out how this is part of the largely peaceful protest and how that fits in. But one of the things that I'm seeing in the crowd is, in the protesting, I'm not seeing a lot of American flags. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing people saying, listen, we love this country. We want to stay here. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some of that. But my question is, why would a great deal of these people, forget about the Puerto Rican flags for a second, because Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. What is the mindset of somebody waving a Mexican flag in those protests? Have you thought about this at all?
Not really, but I don't think those people even care about anything. They're obviously about disorder. They're obviously broken the law or cool with breaking the law. I think they're just anarchists. And that flag is not an anarchist flag, but they can use it as one because that's their issue that they're currently protesting, right?
It's weird, though, to see it. It's like, okay, if that, let's just assume, okay, that person waving that Mexican flag, that could just be an ally. That could just be some...
That's what they say.
That could just be some white dude.
They don't have
just
allies.
Sitting there saying, I'm not going to fly the American flag because I don't like the American flag. And these immigrants are good people. And a lot of them are Mexican. So I'm going to wave the Mexican flag. And that is their thought process.
I think they're just chaos agents. All they want is chaos, and they want disorder, and they just are anarchists. If you talk to them ideologically, they're communists, or they're ANCOM. They want to overthrow the government to install their own their form of communism. You have different types of communism or anarchy, and one is like they want to overthrow the government because they want absolute free markets and absolute free capitalism.
That's ANCAP.
That's ANCAP, and then the ANCOM is they want absolute tyranny over the people, which they think is individualism, but it does not make any sense.
Well, the reason why the ANCOMs want to throw over the government and become anarchist communists because it sticks it to the man. What it does is it lowers all the ships, all of the big yachts, the big boats. It sends them crashing down to the ocean floor.
So their tyrant can rise up and take.
So their tyrants, their tyrant of their choosing can go in and settle the score.
That's right.
With the millionaires and billionaires. That's a have and have not kind of like really fun conversation to have these kinds of conversations with people. What do you think about the military parade? So when is the 250th birthday? Is that July 4th?
No, it was.
We just had it.
Yeah, that was the day.
That was the day.
Yeah, the 10th, right? It was June 10th.
Okay, so real quick, June 10th is not the birthday of America? I'm sorry, 4th of July is not the birthday?
It's the armies. This was the army. So that was in 1776. Or 1775 was the army. The army's older than America. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I think you're asking me.
Yeah, no. So
the army's older than America.
Yeah, I'm asking a question. I truly don't know the answer to this question. It's not even leading. I don't know. I literally saved this question.
It was established a year and a month before the American Declaration of Independence was.
Okay. Yeah. And so we had a military parade.
That's what that was. And there was no ego boosting. I didn't hear anything about Trump's birthday in there. I didn't see anything for him. The closest thing is he got to swear in some new cadets and re-enlist some people. And I thought that was cool, but any commander-in-chief would do that, I think, and I think every soldier down there would be honored, no matter who the commander-in-chief was, to be sworn in by the man, you know what I mean, on the 250th birthday.
The commander-in-chief.
The commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
That's the guy. So, yeah, heck yeah, that's awesome. And, I think a lot of it was manufactured by the media and social media alike.
What was manufactured?
The fear and the spinning up, like, oh, he's a narcissist and this is his parade and it's a secret, No.
This is like
I didn't see any of that.
This is like a North Korea thing he's trying to do.
Yeah, he was like, he's a tyrant. That was the whole tyrant thing. It was like, no kings, he's trying to be the king. And it's just, not only that's not what I saw, but like, this was not unprecedented. We've done this many times in our history. So
was the parade a big parade? So
it lasted like 4 hours or something.
Yeah, so I was deep. I was downtown Chicago at the time, wading through Free Palestine protests, and I was with my family. I've got some pretty good video of some Free Palestine protests on Michigan Avenue. Big thing. It was crazy. I was wading through a sea of Palestinian flags, and my 5-year-old. I'm dragging my 5-year-old through this thing, and she's like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "You be quiet." No, I'm kidding. I mean, my kids did not want to do this. They did not want to go through any of these things, and dragging them through these crowds. We were trying to find a bathroom. It's on Michigan Avenue. So I missed all of these things. I tried going to a Cubs game and that failed. That was kind of a funny story. But I missed that whole parade.
Yeah, it aired from like 5 to 9 or something like that. So it was like 3 or 4 hours. It was big. And each time a display would come out, or some a tank or some aircraft, there would be a little video or something that would explain like the historical significance and kind of the power and what it was, so all the details, the specs, and sort of the cool stuff that it was, why it was there, right? So it took some time, but they kept it interesting and it was well done, I think.
What do you think about what's going on in the Middle East right now with Israel attacking Iran? Is this a good thing? Is Trump a part of this? Is Trump leading this? Is he leading by proxy? Is he in Bibi Netanyahu's ear saying, okay, now? Is he pulling the strings on this? I'm asking you 1,000 questions.
Yeah, no, and I'm digesting it. So I think Trump does not want this, but he can't say that. I think he wants to end all the conflicts. But as a negotiator, you can't come out to the media and say exactly what's going on and behind the scenes. But once it happens, he has to support the side that he trusts more. And while we don't want any more money going into the Middle East from our taxes, like, I'm very libertarian on some of these issues. That, like, stop funding this stuff. This is not ours.
You're pretty isolationist on the Middle East stuff.
Yeah, I think we do too much. But I also understand, like, also I'm limited on information. If they truly do have nukes and they could fire these things off at any time, that's something to be concerned about. Do I trust that they have nukes? Not really. Do I trust that they are trying to get them? Absolutely. Just where are they on that sliding scale?
So Netanyahu says that they have enough power to make 5 bombs, 5 weapons. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, I mean,
just agree with Trump.
So real quick, she's my girl.
Yeah,
I'm just going to tell you right now. Yeah. I don't think she's a Russian asset.
No.
When she went from the Democrat from Hawaii to the hardcore American isolationist, I just think. Ever watch her do a CrossFit training? She's
tough.
Yeah, she could snap me like a twig. It's quite embarrassing, but good for her. She told Trump, not Trump directly. She told the congressional caucus that there's nothing going on, and then Trump goes, "Yeah, I don't really care what she says. He's going to do his own thing." I take a look at the history of kind of like the neocon.
Just a couple hours ago, she actually came in alignment with Trump.
She did.
Yes. So you may.
And what did she say?
I didn't read the article.
How did she come into alignment? So she said there were, because I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
So this is breaking news. So Tulsi is saying that they don't have anything, and Trump says, "I don't care what you say," and then Tulsi goes, "Oh, what I mean is I support you, Mr. President."
I don't know. I'd have to look it up again, but I did see an article where it said she is now reconsidering her opinion on that, and she's aligning with him. So
she's bending the knee because she wants to keep her job.
That's very recent. Like, it was afternoon.
I mean, I love her to death, but like, come on, Tulsi.
Yeah.
What's the real deal?
We all respect her because she'll say the hard thing, no matter who cares.
I do trust her.
Yeah.
But but you see what this happens in the first Trump administration.
Politics.
People are not bending the knee, going off, and then Trump had 4 years to stew about it. He used to just fire him. You're fired.
That's right.
Right? Super famous line. 4 years to kind of build, regroup. He retreats. Did he concede the election? Well, he went back to Mar-a-Lago, and he's not president anymore for 4 years.
Yeah.
He's gathering all of his strength. Like a hurricane slowly gaining strength moving through the Gulf of America. And so, Gulf of America.
Gotcha.
But so now Israel is bombing Iran. Israel goes and bombs their nuclear facilities. IDF, I'm very impressed. I'm not happy that these things are happening. Like, I don't get excited about this stuff.
Right.
It goes back to my mother saying we're living in end times, and I don't know if that's true or not, but my mother always thinks we're living in end times. But
she's not the only one. She's not alone. I've definitely heard that from a lot of people. But also they've probably been saying that since Jesus ascended. So.
Yeah, this has been going on for 2,000 years. Yeah. In the year 599, 699, 799, Y2K, it's always something, right?
That's right.
But this idea of bombing Iran, they go and they take out all of the nuclear stuff, they kill a bunch of high-level security people in Iran.
Very precision.
High-level nuclear scientists. And on the way out, they head up north and start bombing all of the communications as they're leaving, which I thought was pretty slick. Of the IDF.
Did you see the news journalist?
No.
She was at a table like this, making a call to her people to get out to the streets, and they bombed the news station.
Really?
Right behind her.
In Iran?
Yeah.
Really?
It was weird.
It was really weird, though. So, like, knocking out those communication devices in Tehran, that should have knocked them out for weeks, months. But in 2 days, their communications came back alive.
So easy anymore.
But they demolished them. How did they get that stuff back up? Do they have help from Pakistan?
I imagine they had storage. I mean, again, they're so small now that anyone can get this stuff going again.
Who's small?
Like your tech, your devices, So I mean, they might be a little more rudimentary as far as like they don't have professional cameras or something. But if they have a smartphone that was in a Faraday cage in a bunker somewhere, they're using whatever they got.
They can find a way to get back.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting. But man, it's so crazy. So Iran, what are they going to do? I mean, they're definitely bombing Tel Aviv. They're hurting Tel Aviv a little bit. What happened to the Iron Dome? How are they getting through the Iron Dome?
I don't know, but I saw the rain showers of fire going on there. That was pretty interesting.
It's so wild. It's like, how? So Iran's sending ballistic missiles across the way. They pretty much have to go through Iraq.
So they're probably just overwhelming it. It looked like there were probably thousands upon thousands of rockets all at the same time. Those missiles that are intercepting them, they only have so many batteries. While they can handle hundreds at a time, they may not be able to handle thousands at a time. So obviously, I don't have any insight on this. I just can see what I see and then understand like how war works.
Even people with high-level security clearances, a lot of those people do not know.
That's correct.
It is only a very select few of people, and maybe Trump is one of these people that knows and then gives Tulsi a call and say, "Hey, listen, Gabbard, I'm telling you, like this is the right thing to do." Which, by the way, you made a comment that you don't think Trump wants this to happen. So, but you're saying he can't say it. So, do you care if I push back on that? Because I'm not pushing back on you, but I've heard that he doesn't want it. So, can I tell you what I think? I think that there's his base, a great deal of his base, and I'm not gonna sit here and claim to be his base because I'm not. Like, I'm not a Trumper. Mm-hmm. I'm not a MAGA guy.
Right.
Did I vote for Trump in the last election? Yes. I'm 1 for 3. I finally voted for Trump. I don't know if I ever told you this.
You did.
Did I?
Yep.
So like
I didn't beat up on you.
You were nice about it. No, my wife beat up on me. She was the one. She's like choking me. She's like, "Don't you understand what is stake?
Yeah.
Like, what is at stake?" My wife is like, "There is a woke mind virus." No, my wife does not talk like that. My wife actually does not get into politics whatsoever. But if you ask her opinion, she has one and she sticks to it. And there's not really any changing her mind. So
yeah, that's typical.
She's kind of a steel trap. But when you say that Trump doesn't want this, can I just, for fun, kind of push back on this?
Go.
I do kind of think he wants this. So it's like this. Trump, generally speaking, I feel like he was like a no new wars president. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's isolationist. I feel like a lot of his people, a lot of the libertarians kind of cling to Trump's, because I mean, Trump, he's more of a populist guy, mm-hmm. less libertarian in my mind. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact,
he spends way too much money, for example. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I was
terrible.
Like, wasn't that what Doge was all about? What are we pumping the brakes here for? Like,
He pumped the brakes.
Slash. That's what we voted for. That was the number one issue on my thing was like, yes, everything the federal government does sucks. 80% gone, mm-hmm. and they would still thrive. Actually, America would explode economically. Like this would be easy. So yeah, to your point,
I just
he's a populist.
I think he's a populist. I would not call him a libertarian.
No,
I would call. Can I tell you? I think he's a rhino, but not in the rhino of like Okay, so rhino means Republican in name only.
That's correct.
What it doesn't mean all the time. So bear with me here. Have you ever heard of someone calling Trump a rhino? I'm probably the first person who's ever said that.
If you mean the fact that like he wants more spending and higher taxes, I can see where you're going there.
Well, I mean,
tax and spend.
I've never known of a Republican U.S. president that has made government smaller. Never seen it.
Right. Well, Calvin Coolidge is one of my favorite, and he actually reduced size.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then actually, Clinton, he had a Republican legislator. They balanced the budget.
Newt Gingrich.
Yep. And the Deal for America, I think it was called.
But he was a D.
Correct.
I mean, a Democrat
but
balanced the budget.
He had a full legislator that was Republican, though, and they were doing the Deal for America, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, they did a great job.
And he said the era of big government's over. That was the famous line for Clinton.
The whole time Clinton was in power, I was a very young person.
Right, so was I.
And I remember my dad saying, Diane, to my mother, he's doing some good stuff. Like, I know that, we're traditionally ours and whatnot, but we need to take a look at what this Democrat is doing. Mm-hmm. He's doing a lot of good things. And then my mother responded.
He was a good politician is what it was.
And then my mother responded with, like, he's getting BJ's in the Oval Office. There's nothing good he can do. To which my father replied, those sexual acts aside, she's like, no, he's a liar.
Yeah.
He said he didn't do it, so I don't care anything. So this is like, I'm giving you like some insight into the ongoings of my parents' marriage. I should really stop saying this. But, but let's just hope that Trump is smarter than the rest of us, that he's privy to the information, that he's knocking out Iran for like really hitting him hard.
So I don't know if you remember the first 4 years when he stopped the war in Afghanistan. He basically said to the people over there, the Taliban, if one more U.S. soldier dies, you're going to get it, right? And they hit another area, killed like 2 or 3 more soldiers, and he dropped the Moab. The first person to ever drop a Moab in war is the biggest, the bomb, the mother of all bombs is what Moab stands for. And we were all like, because this is bigger than a nuclear bomb. Like, it was more punch power, basically. He basically blew up a whole...
Goes that way, right?
Yeah, it blew up a whole mountain and destroyed all of Taliban. And then everything was pretty much over after that. So he came with a heavy fist to end it. Almost the same reason why we dropped the nukes in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like, we'll never see the end of this war if we don't just demoralize our enemy here. And the argument's been made that saved millions and millions of lives because the emperor said, we're done.
Yeah, they're done. Like that. Okay. How many more of these weapons do you have?
And we threatened that
4,000?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We had one, but he didn't know. We only had one. We only had one left. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. They didn't know that, but
Well, now we have 5,000.
Well, yeah.
We have like more than that one now.
We have 5,000 that we know about.
So, is there any possible way? I listen to a lot of Patrick Bet David.
Oh yeah.
PBD.
Yeah.
You ever listen to the PBD podcast?
Sure.
Oh man, for those of you looking for a new podcast to listen to, the PBD Pat Bet David podcast is fantastic.
They've got a good board there and everything.
It's really good. So the leader of the group is from Iran, and when he was a kid, the Shah was in power. And he tells stories. And by the way, Pat Bet David is our age.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought he was older.
No, I think he's 44 years old.
Really? Wow.
So, but looks older. But this idea of when the Shah was in power, a lot of the things that he would do was kind of like pro-woman. A woman could walk down the street without wearing a hijab. Or she could wear a dress. She could show her ankles. She could get a college degree. The Shah was not perfect, made some mistakes, but then when the Shah got relatively taken away, annihilated, all the mullahs came in, the Khomeini family came in. What would happen if Trump? And really, this is Israel's fight, but anytime it's Israel's fight, it's America's fight, which I have to tell you, someday we're going to have to do a pod on the true nature of why that is, and AIPAC, and the power of the Israelis, maybe the power of the Jewish people. If you talk too much about the influence of the Jewish power, the Jewish culture, if you get into it and say, they're in control of media, they're in control of banks, they're in control of whatever, all of a sudden someone will say, oh, that's anti-Semitism. You can't say those things out loud. Whereas I'm sitting here saying, I didn't say anything bad. Like, I want that power. The power that they have, I would like to have that power personally if I'm being selfish.
Also, with that much power comes corruption. And so you have, like, what does that corruption look like? And that's kind of another thing that our nation was born on, was like, Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you have that much power consolidated in one people groups or one person, you start building a king. We don't want kings, right? We go back full circle to that. So there is something to be said about like just showing what is that number, what percentage does that person or community control, and should we take that with some thought, you know?
Well, let's assume that the Jews are the chosen people. Let's just go ahead and assume this, because so if you go into a Catholic church, do you know what they say a lot? Oh, Israel. You know, it's like, this is like the world of like the Christians, the Catholics saying, Israel, this is the promised land. These are the chosen people. We have to protect them. This is part of our Judeo-Christian West worldview. Israel is our greatest ally. But here's a question I've got for you. What would happen if Israel keeps on attacking Iran? Iran attacks Israel. All of a sudden, the U.S. feels like they have to come in. They have to come in hard. By the way, I really do not want this to happen. I do not. But what if Trump put out a tweet the other day, yesterday or the day before, that says, we know where Kahimi is. We know where he is. Anyway, he's real lucky to be, he's real comfortable. He's feeling good. We're not going to kill him right now.
Right.
We might.
We could.
We're going to let him be. By the way, that is a savage thing to say. What happens if in the end, in the storybook finish, the Ayatollah gets killed? The Iranian people rise up in joy. And the free people, to free Iran, we always talk about, free Gaza, free Palestine, free California, free Iran. And the Iranian people come back and have this new revolution back of what the Shah started but couldn't really complete when he got taken over by the mullahs and the Khomeini family. What if? Does Trump get a Nobel Prize?
That's a lot to ask. I don't think he'll get a Nobel Prize. Maybe when he dies, they might consider it.
Give it to him posthumously?
Yeah, because the media has stirred so much hate in half the country that's completely unfounded, and globally too, like the global elitists, they're never going to go for something like that. Never. But to your point, like a lot of these issues come down to like how are we tied and all that, like Israel and us. I think a lot of it has to do with listening to our enemy. Like what does a common enemy say? They say they're the little Satan, we're the big Satan. They say things like that all the time. Death to Israel, death to America, And you can't not pay attention to these things.
Well, if they wouldn't say those things, they would not get attacked like this. If they shut their mouths, they say it every single day. That's one thing. Like I think Netanyahu lies.
Well,
sometimes.
it's in their theology. It is. Like in the not just in the Quran, but in the Sharia law and in their all their writings. It talks about they have to have 80 nations rise up against them, and then the 13th Imam, which is like their return of their Savior, almost like the Jesus figure. Will return, and then as the revelations say, the last battle will start. But 50, or I think it was 80 flags have to rise against the Middle East, or against their caliphate, which is their one world government. The caliphate is what they want, is the one world government. So they have to flare or start these skirmishes to incite or invoke this return of the Mahdi, the 13th Imam. So, whereas like Christians are like, well, Jesus will come when he's ready. They're actually trying to hasten the return and start the war. So that's the major difference there.
They are trying to hasten the return.
That's right.
Nice T-shirt.
Thank you.
Quincy Freedom Fest.
Yes,
that's
sir.
From 2023. That's actually.
It's a little older. Yeah, that's a little older.
Whoa. So that is an artist's depiction. Let me get this right.
Yeah.
If Washington wasn't crossing the Delaware, but he was crossing the Mississippi.
Yes, sir.
Do I have this right?
Yeah.
With the Bayview Bridge in the background?
Yes, sir.
Who's the artist?
The original?
No, who made that T-shirt?
Oh, our marketing guy.
Okay, that.
Yeah, it was fun, right?
Props to that dude.
Yeah,
that
pretty
thing's
fun.
Sweet.
I don't know his name. John Hammond is our marketing guy, and one of his artists did it for us.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea is why don't we have Washington crossing, not the Delaware, but the Mississippi right
Brilliant.
here? Yeah.
With the Bayview Bridge in the
Bridge
background.
in the background, and the fireworks.
With the Star Spangled Banner in tow.
That's
and you
right.
got it just fantastic.
Yeah.
When is Freedom Fest?
So July 4th and July 5th at Clad Adams Park on the river, down on Riverfront. This is our 5th year going. We obviously love freedom. We love America. When I'm speaking 5-10 minutes ago, I was speaking on my personal behalf. I wasn't speaking on the behalf of the board. We all have our own opinions and our own thoughts and ideas. And we have disagreements just like any group. But when it comes to our unified love for this country, that can't be shaken. And so that's where we unite on and we work really hard for. But we have live music going from 3 to 11 on the 4th and the 5th. The fireworks show is only on the 4th. And we have a patriotic ceremony starting around 8:30 on the 4th, and that'll we will read the Declaration of Independence. We have a reading of what happened to the signers of the Declaration after and during the war, which is fascinating history. These guys really did sacrifice their fortune, their fame, and their sacred honor for our nation.
They did.
So it's something that a lot of us have signed a blank check to go to war for and keep and hand down to our children as well.
Amazing.
So,
will you guys have will John make another cool T-shirt like that?
I don't know, but so we are going to get right back after it and start working on the 250th birthday of America for next year. So hit the fundraising hard, hit the design effort hard, hit the different elements. We want new elements, we want fresh elements. So we have vendors all up and down the park, but we want more vendors. We have kids area where they have all kinds of kids games and activities, and the patriotic train where the kids can get up on there and drive around the park. We have food vendors obviously, and drinks flying. Hopefully the weather is good for us, because in July 4th, July 5th, it's always hit and miss, but it's kind of holding out so far. We're like mid-80s was awesome last year. It was the first time we got a little relief, because it was like 95, 100 all the years prior to that. We saw better attendance, and I think much earlier in the day. We had entertainers, dancers. This year, I think we had Led Zeppelin cover band, which is fun, but traditionally, Led Zeppelin cover band. That was really, really popular. But traditionally, we like to have highlight local bands on a big stage. That's kind of our MO here. And then obviously local small business. We love entrepreneurs. That's like the soul of America, is entrepreneurship. So that's why we're like, if you're a vendor and you want to come out, we'll give you a better deal than you'll see anywhere else in a vendor show. Come out, put your tent up, sell your beautiful stuff. If you have a non-for-profit, come and hand out your pamphlets, share what your mission is with the community. So, and then
I love that you guys do that.
Yeah, it's fun.
This is the 5th year?
This is our 5th year. Yeah.
Who started it?
So, interestingly enough, when COVID was here, they quit the fireworks show, and just a bunch of friends of mine. A lot of us are veterans and stuff. We were like, you can't cancel freedom, you can't cancel liberty, you can't cancel fireworks show on 4th of July. And so we just started brainstorming. I think we had 10 days to get something going. And John Hammond, the one who designed this, he's kind of like a Renaissance man. He can be a survivalist out.
He's a pretty smart guy.
He's very smart. He's actually a web designer by trade, but the guy can do anything and everything. And he's a pyrotechnician. I had emailed him a bunch of times in the past and saw his pyro name on his email return and stuff. And I was like, hey, you pyro? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, how long have you been doing it for? He's like, 10 or 15 years. And I was like, how can we get a show in 10 days? And he's like, that's not going to happen. So kind of told him to make a phone call. He did, and we had a show. So because all of the industrial professional fireworks were shut down during COVID, there was inventory that needed to be rotated. There was crews that were just kind of sitting idle wanting to shoot off fireworks, and so they were like, heck yeah.
What are the dates again?
July 4th, July 5th. That's a Friday and Saturday this year.
4th and 5th.
4th and 5th.
What time did it start on July 4th?
So both days 3.
Okay.
And I believe it's till 11 on both days.
Oh wow! So you guys, oh nice.
Yeah, 3 p.m. to 11. Let me double check my flyer here.
Okay.
It doesn't really say the dates. Oh yeah, it does.
So
yeah,
Freedom
11.
Fest in Quincy, down by the river, July 4th and July 5th. Starts at 3 o'clock, ends at 11 both days.
Yes.
Well done.
Come in, bring some friends, have some fun, enjoy the shows, and leave us a message. Go follow the Facebook page, Quincy Freedom Fest. If you're a vendor and you haven't heard, we can send you a link, so send us a message. Yeah, just come and have fun, enjoy America.
Boom. Thank you so much. See you later.